What is going on, everyone? Parsnip here, and today we're back with another episode of our Let's Build an Adventure map. This time, however, guys, we are not gonna be posting your suggestions, as this has been by far the thing that you guys wanted me to do the most, and that is updating the dungeon. So sadly, the color of the dungeon that is on this world is pink. I would personally have much preferred the green or the dark blue one. I figured that those look a lot more spooky, and it just fits the haunted or mansion types of theme a lot better than pink. However, I will make do with what I have and decide to go ahead and start working on it. Now guys, there are a lot of problems with building or updating the dungeon, and the fact is that I cannot actually destroy this background. The walls on this initial section cannot be destroyed. You guys probably saw me trying to do that a little bit back. However, I have to go ahead and make a round. So sadly, this build is going to end up being a lot bigger than what I originally planned. However, I think it ends up looking really well. So before we begin, I just wanted to go ahead and state that I did use some blocks that you don't find in the dungeon, such as the red stained glass as well as the mahogany fences. I figured that just using pure dungeon bricks would be very boring very fast. However, I did still want to keep the theme of the dungeon. Like, if you enter this house, when you go down, you guys will definitely be able to tell that the dungeon is in fact part of the upper building. That's why you'll probably see a lot of pink dungeon bricks and a lot of pink dungeon walls. All three of them, since there is three varieties of dungeon walls, each of them, be it the green, the blue, or the pink, all three of them have a total of 3 wall varieties. So I go ahead and mix and match those, as well as the red stained glass and the rich mahogany. Now I do keep those other 2 materials to the minimum. You guys can probably tell right here that I don't use them that much, mainly for details, for windows and things of the sort. And that's pretty much so. Again, it fits the dungeon theme below. Now I will go ahead back to the bottom part. I don't want to mess too much in that. I don't want the dungeon guardians spawning, so I go ahead and just add a little bit of details to the big square on the bottom. So here you guys can go ahead and see the main room. I decide that I want to make some spiral staircase. I make some blocks and some lanterns that are activated with a switch from the floor below. And this is pretty much not the center, but the main focus of this castle. It's a little bit to the left, I know, but my initial idea was that I was going to be able to destroy a little bit of this entrance, but since you cannot destroy the walls again, I had to work with it instead of against it. That's why you'll pretty much tell that this column bit doesn't change much, though I do make it look a lot better, at least in my personal opinion. So throughout this whole adventure map, this is probably going to be the biggest build I do. Again, I don't want to make houses so big that you guys could just move in without an issue. Definitely I can see people just coming up to this section and just using this as their permanent house. It is very big, has a lot of space. You could easily fit chest rooms, crafting stations, and make NPC rooms, even though there are already a couple of rooms that I do make. So here, it's what I was talking about. I go ahead and start working on that column section. I do raise the edge side, the right side of the column, to 2 walls, and I decide to make a little bridge to join up the dungeon into pretty much the rest of the map, as it looked a little bit odd just having this puddle here and no way to get across. So I do change this bridge a little bit. I didn't like the way it was looking. It was way too close to the dungeon itself, so I go ahead and make this really weird looking thingy here. Not too sure what to call it, but whatever the case, I ended up liking it a lot. But yeah guys, so next up I go back to the main part of the build. I get into the upper section of the columns pretty much, and here I'm just gonna go ahead and start making things random. You know, I want to start filling up the dungeon as fast as I can, because this episode actually took almost 2 hours and a half when I try to keep things 2 hours. But since I was near the end, I didn't want to go ahead and just leave like 20 minutes or 30 minutes of the dungeon for another episode. That seems like a huge waste. Next episode, we'll go ahead and do something completely different. So I go ahead and make this episode a little bit longer, though the time lapse I did make it a little bit faster. So if you guys notice that I am faster than the usual, it's because I was trying to keep it near the 10-minute mark. So here I go ahead and start making the right side tower. This tower serves the purpose of helping me close up the build, so it doesn't just end in one point, it eases in. So that's why you guys see me making towers in these types of roofs towards the left and the right side. So this is the room that if you guys do move in, you guys can go ahead and use these initial rooms that I already have here for NPCs. You guys can go ahead and make more rooms. You can put tables and divide this better and so on. You could easily fit 10-20 NPCs in this build if you want to. You can make the bottom part into rooms and stuff like that. However, I don't actually know if NPCs can move in this close to the dungeon. This is practically part of the dungeon. It's literally right above the dungeon, so I'm not sure how it works in that aspect. I never really wanted to live near the dungeon because, well, it's just really off to one side. Meaning, if you do make your house here, guys, be very careful, because each time you have to go to the jungle or to the other side of the map or to the center of the map, you're gonna have to walk twice as long. And that's pretty much why everybody should make their base as close as they can to the spawn point. You know, you don't want to make it on the edge of the map, otherwise you're always gonna have to walk towards the other side of the map, and that's a big pain. So here you guys will notice that I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble closing up this section. I wanted to smooth it in, make it look good, but I was just not figuring out how I was gonna do that. So all of this that you see me making right here, I'm gonna go ahead and destroy. This little tower gets destroyed, the part below the tower gets destroyed. I end up deciding to remove all of this and start working from either the left side or the right side. I have no idea why I was working on the middle. I figured that if I make a really tall tower here, I could go ahead and build downwards, which normally would work, but on this case, I wanted it to look good and just match the side. So here I go ahead and start working on that right tower. Again, another tower that I use to ease in. These towers pretty much are just for aesthetics. Sure, you can go ahead and put something in here. You could even expand it a little bit to make it into more rooms, or maybe you can put some decorations or your favorite weapons, but it pretty much serves the purpose of, yeah, just filling in this spot so that I can ease in towards the left side. Same thing with the left towers, guys. Their main purpose is to ease in so I could finish up this build. It's already really big here, and I really didn't want to make it any more bigger. Anything bigger than this, you're just gonna have a house that's so big that you probably won't even fill in the room. So what I did want to do with the rooms is keep the furniture to the minimum. I wanted to go ahead and not fill everything up so that it's not incredibly easy for you guys to just go ahead and move in here, and for NPCs, of course, not to spawn here. Again, still don't know the NPC situation. Hopefully one of you guys can tell me in the comment section below. But what I will love is to see you guys move in here, maybe one or two of you, maybe make this into a second base, something of the sort, but you guys fill it up with your furnitures, with things you like. That's what I'm looking forward to, and hopefully maybe some of you guys send a screenshot or two with that. So that's why you guys can see this pretty empty. It will have some tables, some furniture, but just enough so that it looks like maybe there is something here, but it's not filled to the point that you just start the game and you have everything here. You have your bed, you have your crafting stations, you have chest rooms and things like that. Of course, I want to keep these so that once you do explore the dungeon, you can fill this place up with the furniture that you do find in the dungeon. So here I go ahead and start working on the tallest towers. These are pretty much going to be the completed versions of the left towers. This one here is a background tower. You guys will see that I do use actuators on the roof bit here in a second. And the next one is actually a tower that has the roof, but you can go ahead and use the roof as mobs and things will not come in here. Normally I never use the roof. I just put like one or two furniture pieces, some cobweb, and just completely forget about them. And later on, guys, I will be adding some spikes and painting them a pinkish color pretty much. Last up, we have the final tower of the castle, and this is Pretty much the tower that's more towards the center. I know it is small, it's not as grand as the other ones, but I figured this looked pretty cool, I suppose. It ended up working how I wanted to and just fits the theme of the castle in general. Here I go ahead and make some guards as if this was a balcony, and I figured that that part pretty much finishes up the details. Next up, I go back down and start working a little bit more on the columns, as I figured since this is such a tall and big build, I figured that those columns look a little bit too flimsy for my taste right now, so I go ahead and add some supports, some wooden beams, and some little things to hold the columns towards the bottom. And this is what I talked about in the beginning. I go ahead back here and start working on that center part. Now I don't do much here. Again, I don't want spawn mobs or anything like that. I don't want especially the guardian spawn in here, and I wanted to make it look like it is the dungeon so that you guys do know it's the dungeon, so it's a minimal effort right there. Lastly, this is the spice that I was talking about, and that's pretty much it, guys. All the details and things I did throughout the build. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this build as much as I did. I think the end results look amazing, as you can see here. The color pink was a bit of a turn off for me in the beginning, however it ends up looking just fine. So guys, as always, thank you all for watching, and as always guys, make sure to leave your suggestions down below. So thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.